that set sails.
Hello, fellow pirates, and thank you, Alex Maniatis, our next guest for our interview. Thank you for being here.
Hello, fellow pirates, and thank you for having me.
You're from South Africa, Cape Town, and you might know him from Love, Lies and Hybrids, The Power, or Lily's Not For Me, and of course from One Piece as Kuro.
One Piece. I am indeed from Cape Town, and thank you for listing all my work.
Yeah. Do you have any hobbies that we might not know about?
Oh, any hobbies? So I love playing guitar. I love playing the piano. I love producing music as well. But perhaps from my Instagram, if you follow me on Instagram, you would know that I really enjoy music and creating. I also love creating, just like sketching. I love the art of storytelling in any sort of like form, whether that be through sketching, maybe painting, music, writing.
So very creative mind.
Yeah.
Yeah, amazing. What is your favorite food?
Oh, that's so difficult because I really love eating.
Yeah.
I'm a big fan of pizza. I love pasta, so perhaps Italian. When I was in Chicago now for Anime Magic, I had my first deep dish pizza. I don't know whether you've ever had a deep dish pizza. It is, oh my God, it is amazing. It is basically this thick. It's like a pie pizza almost. It was so good. So I would say that's definitely at the top of my list.
Okay, never heard of that. Must Google it afterwards. Did you read other manga or watched anime?
So before my auditions for One Piece, I've never watched a full episode of One Piece before. I grew up in quite a conservative household. So there were certain things that we were allowed to watch, certain things that we were not allowed to watch. I definitely recognized Luffy's character when I found out that it was One Piece that I was auditioning for, and I started researching. I was like, wait. I've definitely seen this little boy with his straw hat. And the manga are the same. So I would say definitely before I found out, not a lot, but after I found out, yes.
Okay, cool. So, right on brand with your character, what is your favorite horror movie?
Ooh. I'm a child of the 80s, so I grew up with horrors like Freddy Krueger, Chucky, or Child's Play. I would definitely say it's difficult between Nightmare on Elm Street and Child's Play. It holds something quite dear to that, which is weird because it's horror and it's weird. But I really love those two.
Alone from that, did you connect it to your character this way, or because he's very Krugerish?
It's very, yes. So I definitely used Freddy Krueger as a little bit of inspiration for Kuro. When I found out that I was going to play the character, because our first 2 rounds, I think I had 3 or 4 rounds of auditions over a span of 6 months. And it was only round 3, I don't want to lie to you, I think it was round 3 that I found out that it was One Piece. The characters had different names in these audition scripts. So I didn't know that it was Kuro. And then when I found out and I started researching, find the elements in this duality of this character. And when I got the thumbs up, I decided to go to therapy as Kuro. I wanted to understand this character. There was a rage within him and a darkness, especially when he flips. I needed to understand so that I, as an actor, can connect with that and understand the motive. So I went to therapy to sort of like build a backstory of his childhood and why he might be angry at the world, but definitely used elements like Freddy Krueger as well as inspiration. And believe it or not, there was a little bit of Hocus Pocus with Winifred Sanderson. There was a little bit of Scar from The Lion King. The campness, I would say. So I definitely used a lot of those references that were elements that I connected to on a personal level. Because essentially, in my opinion, as actors, we need to find where this character sits within us. And sometimes it is connecting with parts of other characters that you do know.
Yeah, and that forms the character in the end.
Yes.
Did you find any solution on why did he get so angry about the world and why he... I mean, his plan was basically to to get the whole mansion of Kaya and the whole money of her to get his rest and be alone or be
Yeah.
yeah.
I found it quite ironic, obviously, because here was this man that he basically wanted peace.
Yeah.
He hated, being a pirate eventually, and the whole world being chased by Marines, and that ironically that he would kill Miss Kaya to inherit the lifestyle so that he could live his days out in peace. The backstory that I built with this therapist, if I remember correctly, it started off seeing him as a little boy and that his father was quite an aggressive man, that his father hated pirates, and that his father was quite abusive towards his mom and him. And that every now and again, when his dad had these fits of rage, his mom would sneak him into this little room where she would normally make clothes, just to and she would tell him these stories of the fabrics to basically, I would say, to distract him from what just happened. As he grew up, he really disliked his father, and he became this thing that his father hated, which was a pirate. But I think the irony through that for me in my backstory was that eventually he also hated it. So there was a lot of conflict within him.
I really love that.
Thank you.
So we have a headcanon for Kuro now. So get into One Piece. How far are you into the story of One Piece right now?
Oh God, not very far, to be honest. So I'm obviously caught up with the live action season 1, which I really enjoyed. When I started watching or doing my research for Kuro, I obviously started with Syrup Village arc. So because I only had about 3 months to prepare for my character. Obviously, there's so many episodes. There wasn't enough time to watch all of it. I'm caught up with Syrup Village, and I fell in love with Luffy. I really fell in love with Usopp's character as well, and the craziness of the anime. And Django, I really love Django as well. To answer your question, I'm still, at the end of Syrup Village, so I would need to continue. As a working actor, my job is never done. So when I do have free time, like I said, I lose myself in my music and my relationships with my friendships, relationship, and to also spend time there, because those are, the people that keep you sane within this world that is the arts.
Who's your favorite One Piece character aside from Kuro, of course?
I really loved Nami. I love Nami's story arc and where she started off and where the series ended with her character. I really loved the build of that character and her storyline. So I would say that Nami is definitely one of my favorite characters. And I think Emily did such an exceptional job to capture Nami.
If you could eat any devil fruit, real or made up, what would it be?
Probably to stop time or pause time. Sometimes because life is such a hamster wheel, and you just sort of feel like you keep going, and just perhaps just pause it for a couple of months and just take a breather. But let me ask you, what would your devil fruit be?
I really love axolotls, and there are devil fruits that can turn you into a monster basically out of that animal. And you can transform between those forms, essentially between all animal or all human.
Oh, wow.
Be a hybrid about it. And I love axolotls. And there is actually an axolotl fruit in One Piece. I would love that. Because they can regrow limbs and such, so I could be hurt badly and can't regrow anything essentially. And they are just vibe. I love axolotls, yeah.
And tell me your favorite character. I can imagine that it's difficult because there's so many episodes and so many characters. So
I would say Luffy, because it's such an iconic character. And first I disliked him as a child, but if you grow more and more, you have more and more to appreciate about him and his positivity and stuff. Aside from the Straw Hats, because it's obvious one of the Straw Hats for everybody. Aside from the Straw Hats, it would be Bartolomeo, because he appears after the time skip and is basically Oda's way of a character that impersonates the whole fan base. So he's absolutely in love with Luffy, celebrates everything he does, have posters of him on his ship. His ship is even formed like Luffy. It's so amazing. Yeah, it would be Bartolomeo in that case, because he's all about fandom. That's amazing.
And then if I may ask, how old are you?
I'm 32, and I started
32.
One Piece 20 years ago when it aired in Germany or something. It's crazy.
So you were fan from the get-go.
Yeah. since it
That's
was
amazing.
released in Germany. Yeah.
And then grew up with it.
Yeah, and then started
Wow.
reading, then started reading in English, then started reading weekly. Now I'm reading every week when it releases.
That's amazing. Yeah, because I love shows like that because emotionally you also grow with these characters and their journeys. And sometimes even if it is fantastical and magical, the essence of that character and the struggles that they go through is still human. You connect with that, and I love how we grow up with these characters. For me, that show, because I'm turning 40 next year, so that show for me was Buffy the Vampire Slayer. It is one of my all-time favorites. And the stuff that they struggle with when season 1 starts, when they're in school, and then going to university and relationship.
It's amazing to have that kind of feeling. And especially in One Piece, because every story part is different in the themes. Sometimes it's just about family, then it's about racism, and next time it's all about abusing children or something. One Piece can be everything in that sense, yeah.
But that's fantastic. That's also what I love about the show, that the themes that it tackles, real stuff that we deal with, and just in such a beautiful way that it translates to people from any age.
The struggle in the One Piece world isn't that fantastical like the whole world around it, yeah.
Yeah, because again, it's human.
Yeah. Do you have any One Piece merch?
I actually have. So what I got from Set as a gift was my Wanted poster. I got my rehearsal jacket just to basically get comfortable, especially when I was doing all my stunt training. I got my rehearsal gloves. And then, I mean, this is not official merchandise, but I got this as a gift. The artist's name is Natalia, and I will send you her link on Instagram. Okay. She sent this all the way from Mexico. And this...
Oh, if that's the stitched thing, I saw this already, I guess.
Oh my God, but it is so...
Yeah, I saw it. Yeah, so cute.
Oh. It is so amazing. Like, the artistry is phenomenal.
Also, while we are all on this meta talk about One Piece and stuff, I think you kind of impressed Oda as well with your acting and such, because shortly after the live action released, there were a cover page of Kuro, actually. So
I saw, and I've actually got goosebumps all over just thinking about that. And hopefully, I mean, the fact that Oda was part of this whole journey with filming the live action, to know that the creator is steering the ship. The fact that he drew Kira afterwards is hopefully, I don't want to play into, read too much into it, but hopefully he did like my performance. So I saw the cover and I was hysterical.
So, about your role, you kind of told us how you got the role. How was the audition, or how was the whole process even?
Because normally when your agent messages you, I think with this one, because it was called Project Panda, we knew that there were fantastical elements to this series. But like I mentioned, the script that we got, they used different character names. The scripts were specifically written for the auditions, essentially to capture the essence of these characters. And when I got my request to audition for this butler, I read through the script and I was like, ooh. When I got to my second scene, because I remember the first scene, he was Clado, so there was that very stiff upper lip. So that was quite nice, gentle, and then there was a scene with him and Kaya, but also written differently to show a more gentle side. And then there was a scene written to capture basically the confrontation, the fight at the end. And when I got to that, I was like, ooh, I love this. I love the duality of this character. And funnily enough, like a month or two right before that first audition, because I used to play the nice guy as an actor, and those were the roles that I booked. And I was like, oh, I want to play something dark. I want something dark and layered. And then the audition came through. And I was like, cool. I definitely want to give this a go. And I submitted for the first round. And I think it was a month or two later, we heard back. And I was like, I almost forgot about it. It's like, oh, well, they want to see you again for a next round for Project Panda. And I think the producers gave some notes. and what they wanted me to sort of like amplify or perhaps try a different angle, and then waited a couple of months again for the third round, and then I found out that it was one piece, and then my last callback. I had my last callback, and when I got the call, I think it was 2022 February, March, if I'm not mistaken. I got the call, and I remember I burst out crying. I was so excited to book this role. And I remember my agents actually had a fight amongst each other, like, who's going to tell me? My one agent phoned me secretly. She's like, you booked the role. And both of us started crying. And she's like, okay, please, but don't tell the other ladies that I told you. When they phone you, act surprised.
I mean, you're the actor, right? So.
Oh, I booked it. I'm so happy. No, I'm kidding.
How did you prepare for such an iconic role? You said you got to therapy?
Went to therapy, and obviously there was a lot of pressure. When I found out that it was, or that it was one piece that we were going to film, and I started doing my research about not just the character, but the anime and the show and the Oda, I realized that, hey, this is not just a small little show that we're going to do on the side. This is something huge. And to be a part of that. And then obviously there was this element of live action adaptations that were slammed by fans of the original animes. So there was also that pressure. And I think it was trying to stay true as possible to Kuro, and the way that Oda brought this character to life in his anime. But again, I think through therapy and finding reference points within myself that I knew and understood, that I could see perhaps projected into Kuro to bring him to life. And like I said, that was Freddy Krueger, perhaps a bit of Scar from Lion King, Winifred Sanderson, and then doing my research and watching Syrup Village and just going over my script over and over, and therapy to find, I would say, to find that human being, because essentially for me, there were three elements to Kuro. It was the little boy, the man, and the persona, because Clardor is a persona. So it was trying to find those three elements within this character, to root him within myself so that I could also understand the childhood. And sometimes we all pretend, in certain circumstances, we are sometimes forced to pretend or to say, hey, this is something that I like for the sake of, or this is something that I don't like for the sake of. So there's all stuff that I needed to find so that I can relate to this character and not judge his motives. What he was doing, he was like, cool, I am doing this for the sake of peace. There was probably a big sacrifice because I think there were definitely parts of him that really cared for Kaya, but the need for that peace was bigger. It trumped the connection that he had with Kaya.
You did all the fighting yourself, right? Or how did you prepare for the fighting?
So we had an amazing team of stunt trainers that helped us. They were very patient with me, I will say. I'm quite an analytical person, so I need to understand something first before my body will follow. And it was exactly the same. Luckily, we had time to prepare for the fight scenes. And I mean, there were other actors and actresses out there who had crazy fight scenes. When I watched the series, and I was like, oh my God, I'm so happy that was not me. But that was for me. It would have been amazing to experience that on, some of these fight scenes were phenomenal. But with Kuro, they had patience. They had patience with me in finding that rhythm. And once I think I looked at it as a dance, my brain went, okay, cool, I know how to dance. Well, I think I know how to dance at times. And if the moment I looked at it as a dance, it like clicked.
Yeah, for Kuro especially, his fighting style is like a dance.
Yes, it is, because it's so precise.
Yeah. So what many people don't really realize, that there's way more backstory outside of the live action with Kuro, with his glasses. It's the obvious one, but it's not right out told like in the manga. Or like, for example, the thing with Captain Morgan that also mentions you in the first episode, but
Yes.
the backstory isn't told really in the thing. So, was there any scenes that were filmed additionally and were cut out to explain the kind of connection to Morgan, or?
So there weren't a lot that was cut out. I think there were one or two parts of scenes that were longer. I think they had to definitely cut certain things to try and keep it under a certain time. As to his backstory, not a lot, no.
So it's just additional goodie for the fans, essentially. Who knows?
Yes, so there were additional sort of, like, I would say, especially when Kuro, the confrontation with Mary, there was quite a wee bit. It was a fantastic scene. It was a lovely scene to film. It was also the first scene that we filmed. I remember driving from where we got dressed in hair and makeup to set for day one with this scene going in to have this confrontation with Mary, and I got a panic attack. I got so anxious. This is imposter syndrome that kicked in. And then I know that I'm dwelling a little bit, but I had to remind myself in that moment, it's like, hey, wait a minute, you're not Alex now, you're Kuro, and Kuro would be scared. And I remember when that clicked, which is my job, but in that moment, because my anxiety was so high, I think when we were driving and I saw the scale of everything, these ships, these sets, I was intimidated by it. And I was like, oh, as Alexander, as myself, I went like, oh, I don't belong here. I remember just looking at my gloves, because Claude's gloves, and I was doing this because I was anxious. And then I looked down and I went like, wait a minute, I'm not Alexander now, I'm Kuro now. Kuro would not be scared. And that really helped.
Cool. So the character itself helped you while filming.
A lot. I try to learn from these characters and grow from these characters as well, because they are definitely, although they are part of these characters that I don't necessarily understand or resonate with, there are definitely elements that I can identify and say, ooh, they were definitely anger stuff in my life that I never dealt with, because I don't get angry a lot. And if I do get angry, it's not rage. But through playing Kuro, I could identify parts and go, these were moments in your life that you didn't deal with, that you were supposed to be angry, but you were not. And if you don't deal with these things now, they might come up later in your life and it will be rage. And that would not be healthy. So through playing Kuro, I had a lot of realizations about myself. And I remember when we wrapped, it was about a month after the first season when we wrapped, I went into a little bit of a dark space because I realized so many things about myself through playing Kuro. And I was like, oh, but I'm not on the set anymore. Nobody's going to tell me what to do with this information. You need to apply it now, which was quite daunting and scary. But I'm so grateful. Like, I can't tell you how grateful I am, not only to the character Kuro, but to be a part of that was a dream come true.
It's like you stepped back and saw yourself as a character because you were in the Kuro character at the moment.
Yes.
So like you could reflect on your own character in that sense, yeah.
Yes, definitely. And also because for Kuro, I had to, not had to, but I decided I'm going to lose a little bit of weight. For the character, my hair at that stage, my own hair was quite long. It was about here. And obviously for Kuro, they had to cut it. And then we decided to color it black. They wanted to use black mousse, which you could wash out. But the thing was, because when I got into that character and he got, especially with the fighting scene, you might sweat. There's a lot of lights, there's a lot of movement. And if that black mousse had to start running everywhere over that crisp white shirt. So we just decided to color the hair. So afterwards, when we wrapped, I was still sitting, although the character was done, it's finished, I was still sitting with elements of this character. When I looked in the mirror, I saw the character, like all my clothes were too big for me. My hair was black. It wasn't something that I could just quickly wash out. I saw Kuro. And I think through that, I was forced to deal with things within myself because I saw this character in me, essentially.
Okay. So every now and then, if you went with your slippers to your freezer by night, you feel like Kuro essentially again.
There are definitely moments when I can, and this is just my opinion, it's just something that I've experienced. I think through playing some of these characters, especially if the character had an impact on your life, there are elements of that stays with you forever. Looking back, there are definitely moments that I can't remember because once I went into character, I couldn't necessarily what I did, which is freaky if I think about it, where I go like, oh, that's a little scary. But once I stepped into that character, I remember like watching the show and I was like, I can't remember doing that, or I can't remember doing it that way, or because I was this character in that moment. But definitely there are elements of these characters that you play, if this character had an impact on your life that stayed with you, whether that be a simple mannerism or perhaps the way that you walk. I would like to think that I've got Kuro's sassy walk now.
Do you think Kuro is really fully human, or does he have type of animal in him? Because like in One Piece there are a race that is called mink that are animals, and we saw that in Mary, that he has horns and hair and such that looks like a sheep. So maybe Mary is a kind of half mink or something like that. So I really can see in the same arc Kuro being either a cat or some kind of predator in that sense.
I would definitely see him as some form of a cat, like a panther. I could definitely see that. For me, when I worked with a therapist, we explored cat energy. And I know it sounds quite esoteric, but it really, really worked, especially when it came to the way that Kuro moved and the way that he carried himself. And the weirdest thing, I just want to share this, might be stupid or sound stupid, but I remember during filming and working with that energy, especially the sort of like panther energy that the therapist and I were working with, random cats, street cats, would walk up to me, which has never happened before in my entire life.
Okay.
Would walk up to me and start brushing against my legs, and it was the weirdest thing. After post-filming, when I stepped out of that character completely and I felt like myself again, it stopped. It was the strangest thing.
Oh man, it sounds so, I don't know, mystical. I don't know.
Mystical, but it really was. It felt quite mystical.
Do you know where is Django? What happened with him? Did they cut him out even in the script beforehand, or was he cut during the okay, we must do this episodes shorter or something?
So to be honest, I have no idea why Django was cut. I can imagine that it was for specifically to make the world slightly more manageable. Like especially if you take in the anime the original fight between Kuro and with the Black Cats and some of the Straw Hats, it was outside. Yeah. It was huge, and it was all these pirates, coming from the ship and fighting. There was that whole the pussyfoot thing where the ship basically caved in. So I think just from a budget point of view, there were certain cuts that had to be done. From the anime, I love Django, so hopefully let's hold thumbs for some. And I know that that there are a lot of episodes in the anime, but maybe let's hope that Django and the Black Cats make a reappearance somewhere.
Maybe even Kuro, that would be awesome.
I would love that.
Basically, what I get the sense of is in the anime, in manga, his plan was to get Django, to get the Black Cats to the town, to get them raided during his whole to get the whole thing essentially, and blame it on the pirates. In your plan in the live action, it's exactly the same plan but without Django, right? Because
yes,
he didn't have Django, so he didn't have the plan for the Black Cats to arrive, so he just made it with the other two that he had essentially. So it's basically played out the same, but he had he had different. The situation was a little bit different from the beginning. So the plan was different. Yeah.
Yeah, so they definitely had to adapt the plan, and I think as an actor, I had to find that space. Or that although it was there, the information that when Kaya turns 18, she's of age to take over her family's fortune and the business. But I also like to believe that, and that's the sort of like part of my backstory that I did for Kuro, is that I couldn't see him hurting a child, essentially. And perhaps for some psychopathic reason, he waited till she is considered an adult and not a child. Yeah, I definitely think that within that world, that's how I sort of used that.
I see that. Yeah, I really think the live action did something, some story arcs even better, and your story part is definitely better, I think, than in the manga and the anime. Back in the day, like before the live action existed, everybody complained about, the story with Usopp is so struggling to read, it takes too long, it should be way shorter and stuff. And then in the live action, they make it shorter and even cooler with the horror theme. Essentially a horror house. Hello, it's amazing. But they still complain about, it's not the same as in the manga.
That's the thing is, I think with these live adaptations is that you will always have people that are completely blown away by it in a very good way, and then people that are unhappy because it's not as the source material. But it's like you said, in the anime, people complained that, this is slightly slow, or it's difficult to read through this. And then they change it in the live adaptation, and then the same people might go, but it's not the same.
But I really loved changing the arc. It makes the whole theme a little bit different and doesn't feel like this evil of the week or something like that. So
no, I think they did a fantastic job, the writers, and then our director for our 2 episodes, Emma, was absolutely amazing to work with. Such a kind and gentle person, but also knew exactly what she wanted, which was amazing. And then obviously to have the showrunners there, they know the source material. They are both huge fans of the show, so that also really helped.
To bring the horror theme in One Piece way earlier, because originally you get it like around chapter 500 or something, the horror themes or something like that. So to get a little bit of horror way earlier feels like kind of showing the people what One Piece can offer, you know what I mean? Like, I really love this, yeah.
I think it was such a perfect setting for that horror. Yeah. This mansion and this creepy butler, I think it was perfect. Yeah. With his Indians.
It's like baby's first Nightmare on Elm Street. Like,
yes.
But cuter and more friendship stuff. How did you feel wearing the costume for the first time?
Definitely that the character was there now. The costume was absolutely beautiful. They did such an amazing job to create all these costumes and to stay true to the anime characters. And they had to do, I know with some of the characters, like for example with Kuro, because he has quite a big collar, that huge curly collar in the anime, where they sort of like had to, just to bring it in a little bit, which made sense. Moving and being and not poking anybody in the eye with a huge collar. The costume definitely, I think, as an actor, it helps you to, I almost want to say, to ground that character, to go, cool, and there he is. It helped with the posture.
The Genzo actor described it as like going into an Iron Man suit. You just portraying the character and go into the character with the...
Yes. Yeah, because mainly you did all your work, your preparation, your backstory. But there's something about when you put somebody else's clothes on or shoes, or you can feel it's different. It's not mine. And therefore, it would help to go, okay, cool, I've done all this work for this character. And once you literally step into that character's clothes with all the work that you did, all of a sudden it clicks.
Can you confirm this, or did you ask this or something like that? Is it really poop on your costume?
I cannot confirm or deny.
Okay.
Let's just say if you see poop, then it's poop. If it's a swirly cloud, It's a swirly cloud.
Or it's just the ice cream?
Or just ice cream.
Okay. How did they film the wanted poster shot? Like, was it all CGI and you just threw the claw in front of the camera, or?
The slashing of that poster, we did some of the movements, and you would pause. They would bring a poster in to film that as well. So they filmed the actual poster. They would remove the poster, and I came in to basically slash it. And then through CGI, they basically, if I remember correctly, brought in the in-between of that.
Cool. Okay. Did they shot the photo for the wanted poster, or did they take a photo of you during the shots for that wanted poster?
We specifically went in for a photo shoot for that.
Okay. And there was a crew member who did all the wanted poster photos, or was it like?
It was a graphic designer that they brought in, a photographer and graphic designer who, I mean, his work is fantastic. Yes. Okay. That they brought in to do all these beautiful wanted posters.
Okay. Because in One Piece, there's canonical character that made all the wanted poster pictures, so it would basically him in the live action.
In the live action.
Yeah. Did the script change much during production?
No, it didn't. The original, like the script that we received for the auditions were specifically written for the auditions, but there were not a lot of like changes during filming. In the spirit, the trickster, or I would say appearances, Kuro, we were filming, and myself and Albert, who plays Butchie, we decided to prank Bianca, who played Sham. We were filming some of the mansion scenes, and we were in the green room. I think myself and Albert discussed it outside before we went in. We were basically going to tell Bianca that there were script changes for filming tomorrow. But we were so connected, I think, as actors, because we did a lot of rehearsing together and also getting to know each other before we started filming, so that we could have that dynamic as a group. Cool. I remember us sitting down in the green room, and I asked Bianca, I was like, did you receive the script changes for tomorrow? And I remember her face just went full panic mode. She's like, what do you mean script changes for tomorrow? I haven't received any script changes. We were like, well, we've received the new script, changes for the scenes for tomorrow. And she's like, no, what are you talking about? And she starts panicking. And we were like, no, it's the part where you and can you fight and you fall down the stairs, and as you get up, you can mess with my hair. You can mess with me, but don't mess with my hair. There we go. That was one of the line changes. We just played it cool. And she started freaking out. She was like, no, I'm going to mail production now. I need to get the script changes ASAP. And so Albert started freaking out because he didn't want her to mail production, because what if we get into trouble? But to just tell you that the dynamic that we had was so amazing. And all I did was I looked at Bianca a certain way, and she knew, cool. In that moment, she knew that it was a prank, but Albert didn't see it. So he thought we were still in on the prank. So now the prank has shifted between me and Bianca on Albert. So she was like, okay, cool. I'm going to mail production and tell them. So she's typing out this email, reading it out loud, and she's like, Albert told me. I just remember Albert going, he's like, please don't mail them. Eventually, she got a email back from production just saying that there's been no script changes. They've got no idea what Albert is talking about. Can Albert please come in tomorrow morning first thing to see them? And for about 5 minutes, we let Albert freak out. And then I was like, okay, cool. I couldn't keep my laugh anymore. But it was just so beautiful, and how we were so synced with the dynamic that we had and this friendship that we built through rehearsals and through getting to know each other before we started filming.
So you did the script together, essentially.
Yes, because what we did is that we didn't know each other before the rehearsals, and then we decided amongst ourselves to, hey, let's go for a coffee. You are playing this character, I'm playing this character. They're part of a team. So let's get to know each other, because we would need that chemistry on set, on screen, as the Black Cats. And so we started hanging out together. We started exploring our characters. We started exploring the way that these characters might move and what the dynamics would be amongst them, between Sham and Butchie, and between Sham and Kuro and Butchie, and when it's all three of them. Just exploring that, which really helped, I think, when we were filming, because we were also a team. Going on to say, it can be daunting, especially if there's a little bit of anxiety, this little imposter syndrome that kicks in every now and again. But to go on to set and knowing that we as a team, we are prepared and we've got each other's backs, which is phenomenal.
Yeah. What was your favorite prop or detail from the set?
There were so many amazing things. The set design, the props, everything was so spectacular. Like when you were on set, that's why I said the first day I had an anxiety attack, because everything was so amazing. I think one of my favorite things were definitely the snails. I love the snails. I really loved how absurd it was, and it was just amazing. The kitchen that we filmed in the mansion, it was spectacular.
Pool, right?
It was a pool. It was a pool room.
Into a kitchen, yeah.
Into a kitchen. So you would basically walk down these stairs of the kitchen, which was basically the stairs of the pool. That in itself was absolutely beautiful.
Did you went like asking for those things that were obviously some references or something like that you asked, like, okay, we have two penguins here. What do they mean? Why they are penguins or something like that? Because in the Great Hall in the beginning, you see the penguins that are references for the manga or something like that. Did you had kind of this moment?
Somebody told me the story about the penguins, but to be honest, like I can't remember what it was. Specifically within that, when we were filming, like I mentioned, like there are parts of filming that I can't remember. It's weird. Like even when we watched the show the first time, especially with the 2 episodes that we were in, the Black Cats, there are moments that I go, I can't remember filming this. But can you perhaps remind me what the story with the penguins were?
They just appeared in the manga essentially at around the same time during the chapter, and it's just a visual thing. But if as a manga reader, you recognize them essentially. Those obvious weird things that you didn't know of One Piece beforehand.
Yeah.
Me kind of like, okay, why are there penguins? Why are the penguins? A lot of this stuff.
I think what was amazing is that I remember everybody commenting, especially after the show released, is that because the manga is different from the anime, there are differences.
Yeah.
How there was a beautiful balance between the anime and the manga in the live adaptation.
I would even argue that the live action is more true to the manga than the anime, because they cut out many things that kid wouldn't watch in that sense.
Okay.
Stuff.
Yeah. So I know that you are obviously a diehard fan of the original anime, but would you suggest that I wait for this new release or start with the original?
So you can immediately start with the anime in episode 53, I guess, is it? That will exactly begin where the live action ends. So you already saw the live action. So you can keep on with the story essentially. The live action is written as so you can watch the anime afterwards exactly where it ended essentially. Other than that, I personally would always prefer the manga, because a manga chapter is read for in 3 or 10 minutes. So you get a lot of story done in a few minutes, and you can if you just read it while you're on the toilet, you get to chapter 200 in 2 weeks. You know what I mean?
I love that. I love that.
So, yeah.
I love that.
The One Piece isn't about binging everything. It wasn't. It never was. I experienced it weekly and stuff. It is a weekly released manga, so it can be enjoyed as little by little and stuff. It's the journey that matters, right?
Yeah. So I've got a question for you. What, in your opinion, do you think is the One Piece?
Oh, that is the question I wanted to ask you as well, but
And I beat you to it.
So there's a really great theory what the One Piece is, but in my opinion, I have my own theory and I always go by this, of course. In any book or something, in every story, you always have the intention of the author. What does he tries to tell us, right?
Yeah.
If we go with all the facts and predict what the One Piece could be, that would be one approach. My approach is like, what could Oda want to say us in the end, and then approach it backwards, essentially. So my thinking was that Oda wants to create definitely a kind of more peaceful world with his whole story and family thing, but most definitely creates a little bit of wanderlust in all of us, like getting us out into the world, seeing the world, because in the One Piece world, you can't just sail from island to island, because then you are called a pirate and searched by the Marines. There are many people in the One Piece world that are dying on the same island that they are born, and we have the same in our world, but it's way easier for us to travel. You know what I mean? Like, why? So I think he's going for a little bit of wanderlust in the end.
I think so as well. I think it's not something physical. It's not a treasure.
If the One Piece is the world itself in One Piece, and somebody, for example, if there once were aliens that traveled from planet to planet and find the Earth where it is in One Piece right now and inhabited that world, and that was the one thing that they searched for their whole life, to have a planet to inhabit on, that would be their treasure, their One Piece, essentially. So if anything kind of this way leads to it, that the world itself is the One Piece, that would translate to us as well, our world as a treasure as well. And stuff,
treasure. I definitely, the more I think about it, the One Piece might be curiosity.
Yeah. The childish, call for adventure, something like that.
Yeah. Because if you are curious in that call for adventure, you get to meet people, you get to meet like-minded people, you get to build relationships, connections.
Other music, other stories, And the cool thing is about One Piece, like, in preparation for a podcast about One Piece, for example, I read the whole, the old Zoro stories about that released in the novels back in the day, because they are definitely influenced our Zoro in the story and stuff like that. It's like Oda pushes me time and time again into stories that I never have read without One Piece. You know what I mean? Like,
One Piece.
It's so amazing. Yeah.
So many amazing, like, pop culture references to characters. Like Django, we all know what that reference is. We all know what that reference is. But I love that. And I probably, when I take a full-on holiday break, I would definitely love to explore the anime more. I love the characters. I fell in love with Luffy's optimistic side and the way that he always sees the glass half full instead of empty, and how beautiful that is.
Like you said, if you grow up with something like that, and One Piece gets to one theme to another, and it's so crazy. So many times in my life, I had a situation in my life, and at the same time, the Straw Hats dealt with the same problems. It's so crazy. And
it's crazy.
Yeah, it's crazy. And then you just think of, okay, what would Luffy do?
I love that.
It's so easy.
But I must say, I think something that I really love, by getting the opportunity to have played Kuro and be a part of this amazing world that is One Piece, even if it is like a small space of that my character takes up, the people that I get to meet, the people who have these emotional connections to these characters, to this world, is something that moves me. Like, every time I meet someone, either for, just talking about the show, talking about characters, or at the conventions. When I was in Chicago now, that was my second convention ever. And I'm still blown away by the passion and how emotional people get over these characters. And I find that so beautiful, and how storytelling changes people's lives, how these characters changes people's lives for the better.
Yeah.
And to be part of a story that has meant so much, means so much to so many people out there, is something that I will hold dear forever.
Something that really clicked for me as well with the whole what is Oda's purpose thing is Jim Henson always wanted to make a show that changes the world and make more peace into the world, and made Fraggles. And Fraggles tells us about friendship and stuff like that. I really think Oda makes the same approach to just teach us everything so we can be more together. Yeah.
Yeah, because it does. It brings people together.
Yeah. So how did you watch the show after the release?
At home. It's because we were supposed to have, if I remember correctly, we were supposed to do a whole PR tour. Then the actors and the writers' strike happened, and everything came to a standstill. So we, as a group, everybody who was involved in this amazing project, unfortunately, we couldn't experience the release of this magic altogether. But I was able to spend it with my loved ones, which was also so phenomenal. We had such an amazing time. We also it was a whole One Piece theme. People had to come dress up, had food, and we had blue champagne. It was fantastic. I was dressed up slightly as Kuro with my jacket, and I had my gloves on, glasses. But it was also amazing for me as an actor, because this was the first big international project that I was a part of on this scale. And I get emotional when I think about it, and when I talk about this specifically. One Piece, for me, if I look back at my life when I was a little boy, the dreams that I had of becoming a performer, like, that is what One Piece brought me. It made that dream come true. And to work with like-minded people who love storytelling, and that's what I took from that experience, is that everybody was so kind. Everybody was so excited about this. The bonus was that it was on this huge scale. And to be a part of that was a dream come true for me.
Amazing. Everybody always tells me that Luffy and One Piece changed their life and stuff. Luffy literally headbutted you into the right direction. It's so crazy, really. Yeah. Luffy can make dreams come true. Yeah.
He can make dreams come true with a headbutt.
By talking of the blue tea, how is it made? Do you know?
No idea how they made that blue tea. No idea. I think it was quite sweet, if I remember correctly.
So or something like that.
Probably, yeah. Quite fruity, if I remember correctly as well.
And on that note, you really did a great job. I heard so many people complaining about everything on the show, but nobody ever complained about you in the live action. I heard nobody complaining about you.
Thank you. It's a huge compliment. Thank you very much.
Really, it was amazing. And it was just like out of the manga. It's crazy that you...
There were a lot of people saying that it was truer to the manga, the portrayal of the character, which is so weird because I've never read the manga.
Yeah.
I couldn't get my hands on the manga when I found out that it was One Piece, and I heard that you've got the manga and the anime, and I couldn't get my hands on a manga before to do my research. I find it quite interesting. I would love to read the manga actually to see how Kuro is portrayed in the manga.
Okay. Yeah, I could send it to you if you want to.
Oh my god, I would love that.
Yeah, no problem.
Oh, wow.
No problem. I think we'll kind of get into, because time and stuff. Do you have any upcoming projects that you want to promote or that can we look out for?
I'm doing a lot of voice work, dubbing, and I also sing. Like I said, music is my passion. So I'm working on the EP, which is the music it's very electro, which I love. I love anything sort of that's reminiscent of the 80s. There's something that I find quite nostalgic about that sound.
Looking forward to it. Okay, and the biggest One Piece question you can ask somebody: what is your dream?
What is my dream?
What do you want to achieve next? Or
I think as I got older, it has shifted. When I was younger, as a young actor, I think the main thing is that you want to reach some form of stardom, where now, next year I turn 40, and I fell in love with the art of storytelling through Love, Lies and Hybrids again, and through One Piece. It really woke something in me up again. My dream is to just keep working. I want to work on stories that say something. I want to be a part of stories that touches people's hearts, that changes lives, like One Piece. It really made me think and reevaluate why I love what I love when it comes to acting, to storytelling. And if I can keep doing that, whether it's on a big scale, a smaller scale, but if a story or a character could change somebody's life, change my life in the process, I can pay my bills, I would be really happy. Yeah.
Cool. Okay. Thank you for the interview. It was so nice, really.
I want to thank you. And it was such an honor to meet you finally. And thank you for being such an amazing host.
Thank you. And it was so cool that we deep dived into One Piece, really. It was unique, yeah.
And I appreciate it. Please let's keep in touch. Love that.
You're such a nice guy, really. It's really amazing.
Thank you. You as well. You make it really easy to just be myself, to be comfortable.
Yeah. Okay.
So thank you.
Perfect. Thank you. As I started the channel, it was really a dream come true with making interviews with actors, even because it's so surreal as a normal guy. You know what I mean? Like,
but it's also your passion translates. Your passion for storytelling and all these characters and these stories. I can connect with that.
That's cool. And I always loved these Game of Thrones channels that talked about Game of Thrones day and night, and I binged them all, you know what I mean? And now I'm doing basically the same thing. It's so crazy. But with One Piece, even better.
Better.
And I'm still really, nobody is prepared for season 2. If you read or watch the anime, if you watch basically the season 2 equivalent in the manga and anime, you will be amazed. It's crazy how the story goes after the East Blue. So
I am super excited to see what happens in season 2. I'm super excited to see the new characters that they introduce. I mean, Chopper. I can't wait to see Chopper. I can't wait. I mean, we got a glimpse. I'm so excited.
Hopefully we see Kuro in the future as well.
Hopefully. I would love to explore more of these darker characters. So hopefully I get to play some psychopath one of these days.
So I imagine that like Oda is cooking up for the end, and in the beginning he planned for the story to end in like 5 years, and then he expanded the plan. So maybe all the players from the beginning coming back in the very end, you know what I mean? Like it's very
like
close to that right now. And there's a pirate alliance from all the bad pirates, essentially, where Crocodile and Buggy teamed up and such. Don Creek is with them, I guess. So maybe we get Kuro in them as well. That would be amazing for the end.
Oh, that would be amazing.
So just be at the end again would be amazing again.
I just want to thank everybody for their support, for all the beautiful messages that I've received after One Piece. It means a lot to me. It is a dream come true to be a part of something that is so fantastical, that is so moving, that has changed people's lives. And to be a part of that, I will be forever grateful. And thank you for your support. So, let's set sails.